Hey everybody, Nick here, and today we got a disassembly and maintenance video for you on this little guy right here. This is the TuyaKnives, this is the TuyaKnives. This is absolutely 100% the TuyaKnives. What model of TuyaKnife it is actually lost on me at the moment. It is the TuyaKnives Mystery. That's the name of it. No, that's not the name of it at all. But it is a mystery. So kind of it is. Only by virtue of the idea of that, the name you give something is emergent and not a property of the name. It's the item itself. The arbitrariness of form and representation. Anyways, I digress. Let's go on ahead and take this knife apart. I'm going to go on ahead and warn you. I have currently, during the course of this morning, I have disassembled 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 knives already. Oh, 6. 6 knives already, and it's starting to take its toll on me as a human. Not necessarily in terms of, like, nano oil has soaked into my soul, although that's probably the case as well, but more in terms of my whatever fleeting glimpses of sanity I occasionally have all fled away from me. So you're going to find that this is going to be an interesting disassembly here. Holy crap, this thing appears to have been put together with well, some variety of snot or another. All right, let's go on ahead and clean this guy up. Hopefully we're going to end up with a much better action as a result of it. If you're ever curious, by the way, about any of the tools I'm using for my disassemblies, I'll go ahead and check out nickshabazz.com/tools. You'll see a video with a link to everything that I'm using, including the rubbing alcohol I'm currently using to clean this off, and the Q-tips and whatnot, although Q-tips are just freaking Q-tips. You buy a special recommendation of Q-tip on my basis, then that's probably an interesting life decision that you've made there. All right, so I'm just cleaning things out here. There was some very thick silicone-y grease in here, and I sort of suspect that that's making this knife run a little less well than it could be otherwise. So one of my goals here is going to be to remove that entirely, to get rid of all elements of that, such that the knife runs a little bit better on its own. There we go. Lift that washer out of there. Then just get in here and clean this out. I occasionally wonder about the exact lubrication choices of certain makers. Like, I've been to some shops, and especially in the higher end stuff, you'll tend to see the same sorts of lubrications that you see in daily life in the knife community. Nano oil or knife pivot lube or other sorts of things. But in other places, especially coming out of these Chinese factories, it feels like there are a lot of different possibilities for lubrication of varying quality and such. But anyways, it's always been a topic of some curiosity how these makers choose what they're putting these things together with. Some of the Chinese companies tend to go with this relatively thick, almost feels like a grease sort of thing, which might have, consequences for long-term shelf life or something. I don't know. But at least for me, I've never found them to result in a more satisfying or better action in any way, shape, or form. So, generally speaking, once I get these guys home, and I put in a lubrication of, it's worth something approximating a damn, the quality of life tends to go up a little bit. And actually, before I get rid of that, I'll wipe off this blade here, get that grease off of there. That way, when I use a cleaner, there we go. When I use a clean swatch of fabric, it is, well, cleaner. That allows me to get in there and get rid of the last of it, as well as to roll these still greasy bearings around, get a little bit more of it off. Nice. All right. Oh, and then I got to clean this guy off, too. Anyways, all of this is to say that I'm sort of hoping that the action on this guy will be even better than it was previously. One thing I am noticing is this is a very large detent ball. Very prominent, and, that's kind of cool. Doesn't really matter super much. Size of the detent ball doesn't matter. It's the motion of the ocean, so to speak, but it is definitely interesting to see that done a little differently than, I think, most. Alrighty. The important thing is that the size of the detent ball fits the detent hole on the blade itself. That is the key to the kingdom, insofar as there is a kingdom, and that kingdom has a key. There we go. All right. So we are actually getting ready to be good to go here. One thing to keep in mind is that this knife wants itself to be reassembled upside down, so to speak. This knife is... Did I get underneath there? Yes, I did. I just dropped that back into place. Okay, good. This knife wants the pivot to go in from the show side, which makes sense, I suppose, if it's a pretty pivot. And then wants to be reassembled. Oh, interesting. The pivot is a two-piece pivot, and it's actually come apart. Interesting. All right, so what that means is that generally speaking, those are thread-locked shut in some meaningful way. What I'm going to go on ahead and do, actually, is I'm going to do something that I don't generally do. And because the thing is, this side of the pivot isn't tooled. And so what I want is for this pivot to come. This is red Loctite. I know, I shouldn't even be in possession of this. This is a great mortal sin, and I will be doing all sorts of penance for using this here today. But what I'm going to go ahead and do is use a little bit of that red thread locker, get this guy into position in there. That way, this guy will be sort of fixed in place. Once this cures, this pivot will be a, consistent length, and that side will never come undone. I think they probably would have done that at the factory, but probably somebody just forgot to. At least that's my bet. So anyways, I have now used the Red Devil, so to speak, but in this case I wanted to, simply because I want that effect of it being permanently stuck there. I don't need that side to ever rotate. So, there you go. I can't believe how casually I just made a deal with the Red Devil, but you know what? It works out. Let's go on ahead and make sure this has a D shape to one side of the pivot there. I need to make sure that it aligns with the D shape on the other side here. So we'll go ahead and do that. Put this here. Go ahead and drop a couple of drips here. And then I'll just sort of put a little bit of lubrication on the pivot in general there. Next step is going to be to drop a bearing on there. And I'll go ahead and just rotate that bearing a little bit using this watch spring bar tool to distribute the lubrication a little bit more evenly across the balls. Okay, good. That's not a statement that I maybe should have made, but that's okay. We'll go on ahead and not think about where we're distributing lubrication. Moving on. Now we'll drop in the stop pin here. I will go ahead and put some lubrication right into your detent ball hole. That will distribute it along the detent ball track, which is good. And we'll go ahead and drop on the bearing there. Rotate that. I also want to make sure that as I'm putting these washers back into place, I'm putting down against the bearings, the side that was down against the bearings. This isn't a knife that's been heavily used in any way, so, it's not like it's a, literally this came from the factory a week or so ago. So I'm just barely getting everything started here, but yeah. Next step is going to be to put this guy back together. Right now, it's a little bit out of sorts because I want to make sure that, because things aren't fully in alignment yet. The stop pin isn't fully seated, but I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put the pivot into position here. There we go. And there we go. Actually, putting that pivot into position there has, looks like, helped to seat that stop pin a little bit. That's weird. No, I guess that's not weird. Now I need to get everything in the back sort of put into place here, so I'll go ahead and, is this T8 still? Oh, it is, huh? It's always a fun optical illusion, right? Identifying torque sizes by sight is not something that's, it's one of those tasks that's probably pretty tricky for an AI, unless you've got a known, visual field indicator of size. Anyways, I digress. Let's go ahead and put this guy into position here. All right. That is way too loose right now. So what we need to do is make sure that this side is fully torqued down. And now I need to twist this closed. Okay. I think what we have going on here actually is the exact same problem I talked about earlier, where that side of the pivot is actually come a little loose. So what I'm doing there is sort of trying to... Why is this not wanting to go into position fully? I'm going to go ahead and pull this, use this to pull tighter here. Okay, that feels like it's about as tight as I want to take it. Okay, no, I got it in there. I'm going to try and loosen this up just a little scotch. There we go. A little scotch loosened. Oh boy. Oh boy. That's way smoother. No play. I'm going to see if I can loosen it just even a little tiny bit more. Oh, there. Yeah, that'll do. That will absolutely do. All right. So there we go. Hopefully you found this interesting. All is well that ends well, so to speak, even if we did have to make a deal with the Red Devil. But, this goes to show you that I think there are practical times. As much as I, joke about being against red Loctite. And by the way, the reason for that is just that very often makers will use it on parts that do need to come apart. And then you end up fighting it and using heat and all kinds of nastiness. But, in this case, we see that sometimes, you make a deal and it works out okay, right? So anyways, there you go. I hope this has been interesting to you and that you have yourselves just an absolutely wonderful rest of your day. Bye now.